Hey, it's Amir Bormand on another Daily 10 segment of the Talent Tango podcast with my brother Arash.
Hello.
So today, again, we want to pick a topic that, something that's happened in the office, something recent, just top of mind. And we just had an interesting experience with a candidate giving us feedback on the interview process. Really, probably talking about the candidate experience is what the core subject is. But the feedback was that they liked a lot of people through the process, but there's particular people that just were so off-putting that even if our client made an offer, she wouldn't move forward just because of that. The image that person projected, it wasn't even really a major stakeholder.
Yeah, I think one or two people can rub you the wrong way potentially.
Definitely.
And I think it's knowing who's involved in every step of your interview process, right? It could be from the secretary all the way to a CEO and knowing kind of what role and responsibility they have in the process. And then one, how are they getting evaluated? And two, are you actually paying attention to how they interact with the candidate?
Yeah, a good question is how do you everyone that comes in contact with the candidate is both evaluating the candidate and also trying to project the best image of the company. I think what's interesting is I think people who might play small parts in that might not quite understand the impact. And
Exactly.
I think, auditing that process is of massive importance because that weakest link could cause someone to just walk away with a slight ego again experience. You go to a restaurant and you have a fantastic meal, but the busser takes 10 minutes longer to come clean the table. You're gonna slightly get like, "Can you move these plates off my table?"
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever it is, it starts just that experience just rubs you a little bit the other way, and all of a sudden what could have been a 10 out of 10, you're like, "Alright, well, it was really good," but the back of your mind, you're like, "Well, they could improve on things," and you gotta get over that from the opposite side. So I wonder in terms of this particular person, could the feedback so we haven't had a chance to debrief with the client, but our strategy is, as, we like to be consultative with our clients, is to go back and give them the feedback so
Yeah, of
they're
course.
aware that there were certain people in the interview process that left a very bad taste in the mouth of the candidate. So they at least know that they need to probably go take a look and audit the process and make sure if there's any retraining in terms of interview etiquette, whatever it is. But we did have a case where this was, I don't know, 6 7 years ago. Somebody went on site and the poor gentleman was interviewing in a room, and the interviewers were coming in and out of the room, and during the whole time, no one offered this poor person a glass of water. And you remember this guy, right? Is it
It's a while back.
Cannon in LA, Klein in LA. And he came back and said, "They didn't even offer me a glass of water." And I don't know if he felt uncomfortable to ask for the water, which is like in my
Well, they
on
should
the
be
flip.
offering, it shouldn't be him
Yeah,
asking.
they forgot to offer, but it was so off-putting to him that he was done with them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I read an article, I think it's on LinkedIn about Chick-fil-A and how they've shot up in the rankings with customer service, and it's based on saying please and thank you. So 2 very fundamental things to just a customer service experience, let alone you would think having water for an interviewer um, would be something that people wouldn't forget or be part of kind of a very detailed process that people are diligent to follow. But I think it's the culture that you're trying to establish, right? And everybody knowing that they are a representative and a salesperson, because it could be very well you're in the elevator going up to the interview and you're standing next to somebody that works at that company. So it's constantly people knowing that, hey, we're actively interviewing and people coming in and out could be your fellow employee down the road or somebody we're trying to, hire. So everybody needs to be on alert. And I think those things maybe go unnoticed, especially in bigger companies. It's tough to know if your group's hiring or who, but smaller startups, I think everybody kind of knows what's going on.
Yeah,
So those
absolutely.
are things that I think people can put into play, basic fundamentals. Please and thank you definitely do go a long way in making people feel happy.
Yeah, I think we talked about it a couple days ago. We were mentioning the experience. I still think this is all about the experience. And, we take my daughter to Disneyland, and the experience is almost always flawless. Like Nothing ever.
Happiest place on earth for a reason.
It is the most expensively happiest place on earth. No, I'm
There
kidding.
you go.
But the experience is always great. So you'll always leave happy. That is the mantra. Like, everything that is done in that organization, and when you kind of parallel that to an interview, you want that candidate to walk out regardless if they take the job, they don't take the job. They have that positive impression because, again, they might tell 2 people, they themselves next time around might be a candidate
Yeah,
that's
of
a better
course.
fit. So I think it's, to me, the experience is, and I think even internally, we've made it a core mission for ourselves that each candidate gets treated with the best possible experience. I mean, it takes a little bit more time, takes a little bit more effort, making sure, you know, I's are all dotted as much as you can. Obviously, things do slip up and you try to address them, but making that a core part of your company culture, that the experience. But from the interview perspective, not everyone involved in the interview is very comfortable interviewing.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, and so it's getting those people, on board. In this case, the candidate that we were referring to, it was internal HR that had the problem. So
Wow.
that becomes a little bit more of a problem, and they may not be aware of that because no one, we've only sent a few candidates. We haven't gotten that feedback yet. Might be isolated, but at least if they know that, hey, this was the situation, they can at least take a look and question, has this come up previously?
Yeah, and I think that's a tough conversation to have
Yeah.
with your client if you're trying to
It's never
provide that
fun.
feedback is, essentially telling them, "Hey, like the way you're coming across," and it might not be even to their knowledge. I had hiring manager that was very just machine like 10
Oh,
questions,
they would
bang,
get on
bang,
the
bang.
phone. No, they would get on the phone. They wouldn't even say, yeah, I remember this because it was my candidate, your client. The candidate was like, the guy got on the phone with me. He didn't say hello or introduce himself. He just picked up and he just started asking the first question. And he was kind of, it threw him off because he at least thought the interviewer, the manager, would introduce himself. Hey, my name is John Doe, Jane Doe, and thanks for taking whatever the 8-second intro would be.
Right.
And then, hey, we want to get into not just, yeah, what do you do with this? And it's like, oh, okay, we're doing this. So he all of a sudden, habitually, he's probably used to that little bit of a chit chat before to get comfortable.
Of
And
course.
you throw them off, and all of a sudden now his brain is in that panic, but his brain's not following the pattern that he's most comfortable with, and he's got to adjust on
Well,
the
you
fly.
gotta realize you're already in a bit of a stressed type of situation as somebody that's interviewing, it's not as comfortable as meeting somebody for lunch that you're friends with, so you're already on a little bit on edge, high alert, so anything you as the employer, as the hiring team, the interviewer can do to kind of subdue some of that stuff will
Absolutely.
only make the interview experience better for both parties. This is not just for the candidate experience. Yes, that's who's getting affected in directly, but indirectly, you are also going to get a better beat on this individual for your organization, right?
Sure.
So I think it really is probably at a high level, culture wise, how your company is, and it trickles down. But I think people need to be aware that people remember and how you make them feel is a lot of times what they're going to remember from your company and take away and then use that as one of the components, obviously salary, all the other components that go into making a decision,
Sure.
but as a factor, did I actually like the people I met with? I mean, how many of us have had people tell you, hey, I just didn't like the people, I didn't like the vibe. It happens, but you have to be cognizant of what vibes your team, your company is putting out there for people to buy into.
So it's crazy. I was listening to a podcast that Gary Vaynerchuk had. He had a restaurant guru on, and they were talking about, uh, it's not until the fourth visit to a restaurant that someone makes that they're then a customer. I think it's a massive drop off of, if you go once, you might not come back. You go twice. It's 4 visits to a restaurant, and then you're considered a
You're
regular
hooked.
customer. You're hooked. And it just blew me away because a restaurant could have the best service that first time out, and it might not earn the business yet. The second time, third, and if there's a flaw anywhere in those first 3, you probably don't get a chance at that fourth. So the pressure, like, on the restaurant industry is so high to,
Deliver.
to deliver, to make sure and then you translate that to whether it's, consumer experience, candidates, whatever, it's all experience. I think the label of what the experience is immaterial at this point because As soon as that experience is had, if it's good, probably no one hears about it, but if it's bad, it's going out someplace.
And it's gonna be out on Glassdoor, LinkedIn, anywhere somebody can leave a review, good
Exactly.
or bad, people are gonna find out.
Exactly. I think that's it. I think we hit 10 minutes. We don't want to go over too far. We appreciate you tuning into this daily 10 episode. We'll be back tomorrow. Give us some feedback. Any war stories you have about candidate experience be fantastic to hear. Leave a review on wherever you're listening to this podcast. Would be greatly appreciated. Thanks.
Bye.